I'm about to start a backpacking trip with a pack that has a base weight of only 5 pounds. I want to see if the benefits of having a lighter pack, like being able to cover more miles, as well as the reduced likelihood of injuries, are true. Or if I'm sacrificing comfort, protection, and durability in order to achieve a lighter pack. In total, with food and water, this pack only weighs 10 pounds. I'm starting off today with some pretty significant elevation gain. We're heading up over that pass there, and I'm really curious to see whether having the lighter pack makes going up elevation a lot easier. As well, today we're gonna be covering a lot of distance. I wanna see if I'm able to move faster and more comfortably. Once I get to camp, I'm really curious to see how my sleep system does. I definitely cut a lot of weight in a lot of different areas, and my sleep system and shelter were one of them. I've done this hike up with a heavier pack, and it was definitely a lot easier with a pack that only weighs 10 pounds. I was able to move a lot faster, the step ups were a lot easier, and being able to kind of hop over the rocky sections was a lot easier as well. Gonna take a little break here, rehydrate. I am carrying 2 liters of water because I am in the desert, and that's about half the weight of the pack right now. But what I'm not carrying is a water filter. A filter and bag is a lot of weight. So instead I'm using a different mechanism in order to treat my water, something that's a lot more lightweight. I'm dropping down into some flatter terrain, so I'm curious to see how fast I can move today and then tomorrow. Normally with a 20 to 30 pound pack, I'm averaging about 3 to 3.5 kilometers an hour. But I'm curious to see if I can get up to 4.5 kilometers an hour with this super lightweight pack. Something I've realized with this pack, when I'm wearing it properly up high, the water bottle pockets are too high and I can't reach my water bottles. So I have to drop the shoulder straps down, then I can reach back and grab my water bottle. I think it's just a factor of this being an ultralight pack. It just doesn't have the length to be able to put those water bottle pockets a little bit lower with easy access. I'm almost out of water, so luckily came across a little stream here. It's flowing a little bit, which is better than I expected. I thought everything was going to be like this kind of stagnant pool here, which would not be the best for the system that I'm going to be using. These are little tabs that you add into your water bottle once you fill it with water, and then it treats water. The unfortunate thing with these is you have to wait 30 minutes after using them. So if you're really thirsty, you're going to have to wait, but they're super lightweight. This entire pack weighs less than 10 grams easily, and it has 10 little tabs in it. That was an over 20 kilometer day, 26 kilometers, and I feel pretty good. I'm always a little bit sore after 20 kilometers, but I think the lighter pack definitely helped. But now it's time to get my tent and sleep system set up. Those of you who follow the channel and have seen some of my ultra comfort gearless videos, you'll probably find the gear that I brought for shelter as well as sleeping to be pretty comical. It's kind of ridiculous, I think. So the tent that I'm using is the Z-Packs Hexmid. It weighs 172 grams, so it's super lightweight. It's about half the weight of a tent that would have mesh walls as well as a floor. So I'm cutting out the walls and the floor, which is kind of a gamble. I feel like the floor provides some good protection from pokey things, and then the mesh is good for keeping out bugs. I'm camped right near water, so the bugs might get a little bit bad. We're gonna have to see tomorrow morning how well all of that kind of shakes out, and wind can just kind of go right underneath this tent. Hopefully I'm in enough of a protected area here. For my sleeping pad, I've never used this pad in the wild before. This is the Thermarest Ultralight. It weighs 250 grams. It's super lightweight. The lightest sleeping pad on the market that you can buy. It has an R value of 2, so it's not a warm sleeping pad, but I'm in the desert. I'm on warm ground right now, so it should be fine. The issue with this is durability. There's been a lot of issues that people have had out there with holes and leaks, so hopefully setting up on sand and having cleared away all the sticks keeps it safe. I'll probably put my pack underneath me in order to kind of protect it a little bit. The pack that I used was the Z-Packs Sub Nero. It's a 265 gram pack. It uses Ultra 100 fabric, which is a cool, very cool fabric. The pack was pretty good. It did pretty well throughout the day. I definitely found the water bottle issue to be a bit annoying. I think in the future, if I was going to use that pack for a trip like this, I'd bring the 1 bottle system, which basically turns any water bottle, like a smart water bottle, into a hydration bladder. So for like an ounce, you can just run a hose into your water bottle and then over your shoulder, and you can take sips of water really easily. I did bring a pillow as well, the Trekology 2.0, so I'm gonna have a little bit of comfort. And as far as the rest of my sleep system, like my insulation, the quilt that I'm using, very cool quilt, very high tech, super lightweight, but I'll talk about that tomorrow morning. I'm gonna start getting dinner going. I did bring a cook system, so I'm not cold soaking or anything like that. That would have saved probably another ½ pound if I did that, but I'm really excited for the meal that I have tonight, and I'll share with you my Ultralight cook system in a second here. For my cook kit, everything fits in this super tiny 500 milliliter Toaks titanium light pot. So if you open up the elastic here, I have a BRS 3000 stove. This thing only weighs 25 grams. The pot weighs 72 grams, so all in all, it weighs under 100 grams. Then I have a little mini Bic lighter and then my fuel canister. In order to get everything to fit, you have to take the little cap off the fuel canister. For my meal, I'm having a freeze-dried meal. I love freeze-dried meals. They're so much better than cold soaking. I could have saved some weight by cold soaking, but it wouldn't have been nearly as enjoyable. And then I'm using my pink titanium spoon in order to eat my freeze-dried meal as well as my breakfast. In order to stay warm, in addition to my sleeping pad and my quilt, I have just 2 items. And that's a Patagonia Ultra Alpine down quilt. This only weighs 150 grams, super lightweight. And then I have a merino wool toque. I think with this system, I could probably get down to close to freezing and still be warm. And that's because I also wear my clothing that I hike in while I'm sleeping. A lot of the time I'll bring a pair of long johns as well as a sleep shirt. I find that the hiking shirts I normally wear, they stink after a very short period of time and they're not super comfortable to sleep in. But on this trip, I'm using an alpaca wool shirt. So this has been 4 days of wearing it now. Doesn't really stink at all. And it's warm, but also keeps me cool while I'm hiking. So it has a lot of good features going for it, so I don't need to be bringing a whole bunch of extra clothes, and then I can use the hood as well to add a little bit of extra warmth. But this is my first time going this minimal on a trip, so you're gonna have to wait until morning to see whether my sleep system and my clothing was warm enough and whether this pretty minimal shelter was able to protect me enough from wind, bugs, and any sort of weather that might roll in. Good morning. Last night was an adventure. We'll start with talking about the tent tarp here. I don't know what to call it, but it surprised me. I didn't think that I'd be protected from the wind as much as I was. There was a little bit of wind last night, but something that I learned from Ryan Jordan over at Backpacking Light is that wind is stronger the higher off you get from the ground. So at ground level, the wind is pretty light. So this tent was able to protect me at those higher spots and only let in that light wind at the bottom. So even though it was windy, I didn't feel like the wind was sucking the heat out of me. The other issue, which I mentioned last night, were bugs. There were mosquitoes out last night. I got 2 bites, but for the most part, the mosquitoes weren't coming in under the tent. I don't know if that's just the way they just can't fly that way very well, but only 2 mosquitoes got me. And I think part of that was due to the quilt covering up most of my body as well. If it was too warm for a quilt, I probably would have gotten a few more bites. Talking about the quilt, temperatures last night got down to about freezing, and I was warm enough in this quilt along with my down sweater. The quilt is the Enlighten Equipment Revelation 40-degree quilt. I went with a 40-degree quilt because I figured I wouldn't be using a super ultralight system like this in anything but really warm temperatures. So that's why I went with that. And like I said, it was able to keep me warm enough with the down sweater. It only weighs 395 grams, so it's the lightest quilt that I have by far. And part of that is due to the 40-degree rating. They just don't need as much down in it. But as well, the shell material is 7 denier, and then the power of the fill inside of it is 950. So those are basically the 2 lightest types of materials that you can get, and it'd be hard to beat this quilt as far as weight goes unless you go to a warmer quilt. I did not have big expectations for the sleeping pad, the Thermarest Ultralight down there. I honestly thought it was gonna pop. It didn't pop, it didn't leak on this trip so far. We'll see how it does over the course of the year as I put more testing on it. but it was more comfortable than an X-Lite or an X-Therm because of the fact that it's a little bit softer of a material, so it kind of squished to my body shape a little bit more. I would have liked a wide pad. Wide pads are just a lot more comfortable, but in order to save weight, I went with the regular width version. Overall, my sleep was better than I expected. If anything, I could say that it was pretty good. So that brings us to the question of whether you need to sacrifice comfort and protection and durability in order to have a super ultralight setup and get down to a 5-pound base weight. And while I don't think you need to sacrifice any of those things, you may need to compromise a bit, and especially in bad weather. I don't think this tent would have been nearly as fun a place to hang out if it was raining last night or I was dealing with extreme wind, but it did the job in moderate conditions. As well, I could have had a way better sleep if I had a much more comfortable sleeping pad. As far as the quilt goes, I wouldn't say that was a compromise at all. That was a very good, solid quilt for me, kept me warm. And then the pack probably wasn't a compromise either. It was super lightweight. The water bottle pockets were a bit of an issue, but I think I can solve that with the 1-bottle system. And I do think I realized the benefits of being able to go longer distance faster. The elevation gains were a lot easier yesterday. I feel great this morning. And the aspect of decreasing the likelihood of injuries is probably a real one. I was going through some pretty uneven terrain and I was able to stay light on my feet. I was almost rolled my ankle at one point, but I think partly because I had a lighter pack, I was able to just recover from it really easily. And that's something to keep in mind especially if you're kind of on the older end. Like I'm approaching, I'm almost 40 now at this point, as Steph would say. But when you're getting older, you want to be kind of watching out for your body, and having a lighter pack is going to really help you do that. For some people out there, this system won't be for them. It will be a little bit too ultralight, a little bit too finicky, but for other people out there, it's something to consider, especially parts of it, in order to lower your pack weight. So I guess you could say I was wrong about super ultralight systems. And if you want to see some other things that I was wrong about, go check out this video right up here. There's some things I was wrong about sleeping pads, quilts, tents, and not just that they are better than I expected, but nuances about them that I think are really cool.